Invoice for raising Chinmay. $485,250. My father read the number aloud into the microphone, pointing a laser at the spreadsheet projected above my birthday cake. Every diaper, every meal, every cent we wasted on you. It is time to pay up. Before I could even process the math, my mother ripped my framed university degree off the wall and smashed it on the floor. Then my sister Ashley shoved a camera in my face and sneered. Dad just transferred your car title to me. We are repossessing company property from the family leech. Before I tell you exactly what I did with that red pen in my pocket, drop a comment and let me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. I would love to know who is part of our community. I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not beg. Those are the reactions of a daughter. And I realized in that moment that I was not a daughter anymore. I was an auditor at a crime scene. My name is Chinmay, and I am 29 years old. I work as a corporate restructuring specialist. My job is not just about math. It is about autopsy. I walk into dying, corrupt companies, strip away the rot, fire the toxic leadership, and salvage what is valuable. I spend my days staring down CEOs who think they can bully me into ignoring their embezzlement. My parents thought they were humiliating a helpless nurse or a struggling artist. They did not realize they were trying to intimidate a woman who dismantles empires for a living. The room was waiting for my breakdown. Kenneth's smirk was wide and greasy, the look of a man who thinks he holds all the cards. Ashley was zooming in on my face, desperate for a tear she could monetize. But they misunderstood the situation entirely. In my line of work, we have a rule: the trap of silence. When a corrupt executive starts bragging about his power, you never interrupt him. You never argue. You let him speak. You let him document his own arrogance. Silence is not submission. It is data collection. Kenneth was not just insulting me. He was projecting a detailed list of financial expenditures that far exceeded the poverty-level income he had reported to the Internal Revenue Service for the last 30 years. He was not handing me a bill. He was handing me a confession. I reached into my blazer pocket and pulled out my red pen, the one I used to mark assets for liquidation. The sound of the cap clicking off echoed in the silent room. I walked calmly to the table, where the printed invoice lay. Kenneth's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. He expected me to rip it up. Instead, I smoothed the paper out. In bold red strokes, I wrote across the bottom: received and acknowledged. I signed my name with a flourish. "Thank you, Dad," I said, my voice projecting clearly to the back of the room. To his business partners, to the neighbors, to the live stream. I have been waiting for you to provide proof of this income for 5 years. This fills in all the gaps. I picked up the document, folded it neatly, and placed it in my pocket. Then, I turned to Ashley. She was still holding my car keys, looking confused. Like a dog that caught a car and did not know how to drive it. "Keep it," I said. "The maintenance costs are due next week. And Ashley, make sure you spell my name right in the caption." I turned and walked out the front door. I did not look back at my mother, who was standing over the shattered glass of my degree. I did not look back at the 200 guests who were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. I walked down the long driveway, past the fountain, past the security gate. I pulled out my phone and ordered a rideshare behind me. Behind me. I could hear nervous laughter erupting from the house. They were laughing because they thought I had walked away with nothing. They thought they had won. They had no idea that I had just walked away with the only weapon I needed to burn their entire kingdom to the ground. I checked into a hotel downtown, the kind that asks for a credit card, without blinking at the limit. I sat on the edge of the pristine white bed and opened the digital scan of the invoice on my laptop. Most people would look at this document and see a list of groceries, medical bills, and tuition fees. I looked at it and saw a psychological profile of a monster. Line item 4002. Summer camp 2006. $2,000. Line item 618. Emergency appendectomy 2010. $14,000. I ran a finger over the screen. This is the narcissist's ledger. To a normal parent, a child is a human being to be nurtured. To a narcissist, a child is a high-yield asset class. They do not feed you because they love you. They feed you to protect their investment. And when that asset starts thinking for itself, when it stops yielding the emotional dividends of total obedience, they decide it is time to liquidate. Kenneth was not trying to teach me a lesson about money. He was trying to cash out a failed stock. But in his arrogance, he made a fatal accounting error. I scrolled back to the years 2008 through 2012. I remembered those years vividly. I was working double shifts at a diner to pay for my own textbooks because Kenneth told me the family was cash poor. I remembered eating ramen in the dark because Susan said we had to save electricity. I remembered the shame of applying for financial aid, checking the poverty box because my father reported an annual income of $35,000 on his tax returns. $35,000. That was the lie he told the government for 20 years. He claimed he was a struggling small business owner. He claimed the mansion was a corporate office, and the luxury cars were company vehicles. He cried poverty to the IRS every single April. Yet here in front of me, signed and dated by his own hand, was a document claiming he had spent nearly $500,000 on just one child. I pulled up his public tax records, a basic background check I run on every target. I placed them side by side with the invoice. The math was beautiful in its impossibility. You cannot spend $485,000 in post-tax on a child when you claim to earn poverty wages. You cannot pay for private schools and orthodontics with money that legally does not exist. For decades, Kenneth had been funneling unreported cash through the family expenses to wash it clean. He had not just handed me a bill for my existence. He had handed me a roadmap of his tax evasion. I felt a cold, hard smile touch my lips. They thought I was crying in a motel room, mourning the loss of my family. They did not realize I was not mourning. I was auditing. I was not an ungrateful daughter anymore. I was a whistleblower with a smoking gun. I picked up my phone and dialed the one person who would understand the beauty of this discrepancy. It was not a therapist. It was my mentor. A man who spent 30 years hunting tax cheats for the federal government. Hello? His voice a ray, sped. It is Chinmay, I said. I have a case, and the numbers do not add up. I stayed in the hotel room for 3 days. To an outsider, it might have looked like hiding. To me, it was a strategic pause. I needed to see if they would de-escalate. I needed to see if there was a single shred of humanity left in the Dixon bloodline. There was not. My phone did not ring with apologies. It vibrated with threats. The escalation was coordinated, relentless, and suffocating. First came the text from Kenneth. He did not write like a father. He wrote like a lone shark. Since you signed the invoice, received, and acknowledged, you have legally accepted the debt. Payment is due in 30 days. If funds are not transferred, we will garnish your wages. Do not test me, Chinmay. I stared at the screen. He genuinely believed he had trapped me. He thought my signature was a concession, not a timestamp on a crime scene. He was so blinded by his own greed that he could not see the trap closing around his ankles. Then came the notification from Instagram. Ashley. She had posted a new reel. I clicked it. It was a video filmed from the driver's seat of my car. The car I had paid off 3 years ago. The car she had stolen in the driveway. The caption read, Repo the family leech's ride. Number boss babe, number cleanup. In the video, she was revving the engine, laughing with her friends. Finally got rid of the dead weight, she shouted over the music. Imagine being 29 and still mooching off your parents. Bye, Felicia. The comments were a cesspool of sick fans, validating her cruelty. You go, girl. Toxic people need to go. They did not know the truth. They did not know that the leech had paid for Ashley's rehab twice. They did not know the moocher had funded the very phone she was recording on. But the final blow came from Susan. An email popped up with the subject line, "Notice to vacate." It was a formal eviction notice from my childhood bedroom. A room I had not slept in since I was 18. A room she had turned into a gift wrapping station a decade ago. Dear tenant, it began. You are hereby notified to remove all personal property from the premises within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in disposal of items. Additionally, a cleaning fee of $500 has been added to your outstanding balance for the removal of your trash. By trash, she meant the boxes of books and childhood awards she had demanded I leave behind to keep up appearances. I set the phone down on the nightstand. The air in the hotel room was cool and still. For years, a small, stupid part of me had held on to guilt. I wondered if I was the problem. I wondered if I was too cold, too distant, too ungrateful. But reading that email, a formal eviction from a mother to a daughter, over a room that did not even exist anymore, vaporized that guilt. It incinerated it. They were not acting out of hurt. They were acting out of malice. They wanted to strip me of my shelter, my transportation, and my history. They wanted to erase me because I had stopped being profitable. They thought these messages would break me. They thought I would come crawling back, checkbook in hand, begging for forgiveness. They did not realize they had just given me the moral clearance to do what came next. I was not fighting family anymore. I was fighting a hostile entity that needed to be dissolved. I picked up my laptop. I did not reply to Kenneth. I did not comment on Ashley's video. I did not email Susan. I opened a new browser tab and typed in the address for the Internal Revenue Service whistleblower office. It was time to go to work. I did not go to a family therapist to process my feelings. I went to a glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor of a downtown high-rise to process a takedown. Sitting across from me was Elias, my mentor. He spent 25 years as a senior auditor for the IRS before moving to the private sector. He was the man who taught me that numbers do not lie. Only people do. He looked at the documents spread across the mahogany table. Kenneth's public tax returns on the left. The invoice for existence on the right. Elias adjusted his glasses. He was silent for a long time. When he finally looked up, his expression was not one of pity. It was the look of a hunter who just spotted a wounded gazelle. He listed private tennis lessons 2004 at $3,000, Elias said, his voice flat. In 2004, he reported a gross income of $22,000 to the federal government. Correct, I said. And here, Elias pointed to another line. European Vacation 2009, $18,000. That year, he filed for a hardship extension on his business taxes. Also correct. Elias leaned back, a rare smile touching his lips. Chinmay, this is not just a discrepancy. This is the net worth method of proof, handed to us on a silver platter. Your father has documented in his own handwriting that his expenditures have exceeded his reported income by at least 400% for 3 decades. He did not just confess to being a bad father. He confessed to tax evasion, wire fraud, and filing false returns. I nodded. He thought he was billing me. He forgot he was auditing himself. We did not waste time discussing the morality of destroying my family. In corporate restructuring, you do not mourn the toxic assets. You cut them loose to save the healthy tissue. My family was the toxic asset. I was the healthy tissue. I opened my laptop and pulled up the most dangerous document in the American financial system. IRS Form 211. The application for award for original information. It is the whistleblower's weapon. We worked with surgical precision. Section B. Alleged violation. We typed unrep, ordered income, and money laundering. Section C. Supporting documentation. I uploaded the invoice. I uploaded the eviction notice email, which demanded a cleaning fee, proving Susan was running an unreported rental business out of the estate. But the final nail in the coffin was the video. I attached the live stream footage from my birthday party. It showed Kenneth standing on a stage, surrounded by opulence. Crystal chandeliers. Catering for 200 people. Expensive champagne, while bragging about spending nearly $500,000 on a single child. It was a video of a man flaunting wealth. He had sworn to the government he did not possess. If we file this, Elias warned, his finger hovering over the mouse, there is no going back. The Criminal Investigation Division does not do warning shots. They do raids. They freeze assets. They put people in federal prison. This is a nuclear strike. I looked at the screen. I thought about the car keys Ashley stole. I thought about the eviction notice for my childhood bedroom. I thought about 30 years of being told I was worthless, unless I was paying for it. He billed me for my existence. Elias, I said softly, I am just returning the product. I pressed submit. The screen flashed a confirmation number. It was done. The mechanism of the federal government began to turn, slow and grinding and unstoppable. Kenneth thought he was a king in his castle. He did not know I had just sold the castle out from under him. 6 months of silence followed. To my family, it must have looked like I had accepted my defeat. They probably thought I was cowering in a studio apartment, mourning the loss of my inheritance. They did not know that silence is just the sound of a guillotine blade being hoisted into position. The blade dropped on a humid Saturday evening in July. Kenneth was hosting his annual midsummer gala. The estate was lit up like a cruise ship. Valets were parking Bentleys on the lawn. Inside, I knew he was holding court, likely telling a revised version of the ungrateful daughter's story to garner sympathy and investors. I sat in my rental car at the end of the block, watching the live feed from the security cameras. I had not hacked them. I just never removed my access. The login credentials were my birthday. He never cared enough to remember the date, so he never thought to change the password. At 9:15 p.m., the music stopped. Not because the band took a break, but because the front doors burst open. Federal agents. Nobody move. The raid was not subtle. It was a spectacle. Dozens of agents and windbreakers swarmed the hall. Guests screamed and dropped their champagne flutes. I watched on my screen as Special Agent Miller, the lead investigator Elias had contacted, marched up to Kenneth. Kenneth Dixon. Miller's voice boomed over the speakers. We have a warrant for the seizure of this property and your immediate arrest for tax evasion and money laundering. This should have ended everything. Kenneth should have panicked. Instead, he looked irritated. He stopped the music, pulled out a folded document, and declared to Agent Miller that the money he spent on me was not income. It was a debt. He presented a loan agreement from 2005, involving a Cayman Islands entity called Dixon Holdings International, claiming the $485,000 was loan money. I later embezzled as the company's secretary. Instantly, he recast himself as a victim, and me as a criminal. Miller hesitated. The document looked official. The raid froze. Kenneth believed he had won, but he underestimated me. I knew the fake company better than he did. I returned to the house, plugged my laptop into the projector, and displayed the incorporation papers for Dixon Holdings. The director listed was my sister Ashley, who had been 6 years old when the company was registered. Then I showed proof, Kenneth had used my social security number to establish her identity. I stated the obvious. By handing over the forged loan, Kenneth had provided evidence of aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, and tax evasion. Federal agents restarted the raid. Ashley was taken for questioning. Kenneth tried to run, but was arrested on the spot, begging me to fix what he had created. I told him I was fixing it by dismantling him. His estate was seized, the family removed from the mansion, and everything was auctioned. Months later, I received a whistleblower award from the U.S. Treasury, enough to rebuild my life. I bought back my grandmother's house, the one Kenneth stole years before. Tonight, sitting by the fire, I burned the infamous invoice he once weaponized against me. It turned to ash, just like the power he held over my life. The debt is gone. The story is closed. For the first time, I am not a burden or an asset. I am simply Chinmay, and I am finally